Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Winning Edge Coach podcast, where I'm going to give you the tools, tactics, and techniques to succeed in every aspect of your life. I'm your host, Kevin Oakley. This is a midweek version of the podcast. It's a shorter than normal episode. The aim of the Wednesday wrap-up episodes is to give you an actionable technique or piece of advice that you can go away, try almost immediately, and see if it helps you. In this episode, I want to give you a technique that will help you to get into both the right physiological state and the right mental state for whatever situation you're encountering. And it could be any aspect of your life, from being a parent to being a manager to being an athlete to being working out in the gym. It could be absolutely any aspect of your life. It takes 2 minutes and it's really powerful. Welcome to the Winning Edge Coach podcast. I am Kevin Oakley. As well as being your host, I'm also a peak performance mindset and life coach. In each episode, I want to share with you the tools, tactics, and techniques to create a winning edge mindset to help you to live the life you were meant to live. In this episode, I'm going to give you a technique that helps you to get into the right frame of mind for whatever you're about to do. But before we do that, I've got a favour to ask. If you're listening to the podcast and you're enjoying it, please can you hit the subscribe button? That way, it helps us to get found, it expands the audience of the podcast, and we get more listeners. I can invest more time and more effort into the podcast, and you guys will get more from it. But that's just a favour from me. Right. We all find ourselves in situations where we're just not in the right frame of mind. Have you ever come in from work at the end of a hard day, parked up on the drive, getting out the car, you got your kids waiting for you, and you just, again, don't want to go in and just slump down in front of the TV and not be present for your kids, not to hear about their day, what's happened to them, etc. Or it could be first thing in the morning, parking up at work, and it's one of those days. You're just not feeling it that morning. You're not engaged. You're not motivated. Well, this technique is for you, and it's very simple. The first part of the technique, and I call it the 2-minute rule, because it literally takes 2 minutes. But let's use the example of going home, parking on the drive. It's been a hard day. And the first question is, what would the best dad in the world look like, act like, and feel like? So that's the first stage, is to ask yourself that question. What would the best dad or even the best mum in the world look like, act like, and feel like? The next bit is the important bit. It's actually to take through each step of that process. So, what would the best dad in the world look like? Get a mental image of how you would look if you were the best dad in the world. How would you hold yourself? How would you stand? Get that captivating image of what you as the best dad in the world would look like. Now, ask yourself, how would you act as the best dad in the world? If you were going in to the house, how would you act? How would you engage with your children? How would you engage with your wife? Or if you're a mum, again, how would you engage with your kids? Or how would you engage with your husband? How would you act around them? Get that image of how the best mum or dad in the world would act. How would they go about? How would they carry themselves? What would the voice be like? What would they do? Get that image. Get that mental image and run through it. And the final bit is actually, what would it feel like? What feelings would they have or would you have as the best mum or dad in the world? Just examine that feelings. How would you feel? And just spend a few minutes as you go through that process of getting that image of what the best dad or mum in the world would look like, act like, and feel like. Encompass that image. And if it helps, for those 2 minutes, once you've got that image, if you need to make it a little bit bolder, a little bit brighter, that mental image, you can turn up the colours on it, you can bring it a little bit closer to you. But once you've got it, you can actually almost step into it and wear it like it was you. It's like almost stepping into a costume. Try it. Try it today. You can even, as I said, it could be first thing in the morning when you listen to this podcast and you parked upon outside the office. Okay, ask yourself, whatever your title is. Let's say you are CEO. Let's go big here. Okay, what would the best CEO look like, act like, and feel like? Just spend 2 minutes pondering those 3 questions. What would the best CEO look like, act like, feel like? Get all the feelings, all the thoughts, the visual image of that, and embrace it and see what difference it makes to your day. As I said, this is a new short version of the podcast out on a Wednesday. It's called the Wednesday Wrap Up. Short, sharp, positive actions you can take into the rest of the day and the rest of the week until the next episode of the podcast out on a Saturday morning. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go and give the 2-minute rule a go. That was the Winning Edge Coach podcast. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winning Edge Coach podcast and you'd like to help support the podcast, please hit the subscribe button and if possible, leave a rating or a review. Also, please feel free to share the podcast with others and post about it on your favourite social media platform. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Twitter @WinningEdgePod. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.